Are you feeling unprepared for your marathon? Do you think like you should have done more? Are you worried that the long run that you missed a few weeks ago could have been crucial, or you didn't quite hit your splits in that interval session? I'm going to talk to you about overcoming last minute doubts and how to boost your confidence even if you feel unprepared. I'm going to talk to you about final adjustments in training, how to make smart changes to maximize your fitness without overdoing it. Tapering tips, how to approach the taper for peak performance and set yourself up for success. I'm also going to talk to you about marathon race planning and visualization for the course. And then we'll talk about mindset shift, a complete mindset shift to free you up on race day to get the absolute most out of your body. I'm seeing it all over social media right now. People are getting towards marathon season, autumn, fall, and winter. And the big city marathons like Berlin Marathon and the marathons across Europe and North America are coming up, and people are starting to doubt themselves and already put themselves on the back foot. Totally unnecessary. And hopefully this will help you if you feel like you're in that position. This is a typical example of what I'm seeing on Facebook and social media right now.
So 4 weeks out from my first marathon, and accumulated fatigue has hit hard this week. Just shy of 100K a week for the last 4 weeks, and having a wobble about my ability to nail that sub 3. Relying on a miraculous taper and fresh legs, okay, the day to pull me through. Ran my furthest run today at 22 miles, 35K, and felt good. Ran 10K at an easy pace, 15K at just below marathon pace, and 10K to finish at easy pace. Hit a hill at 3K into my 15 around marathon pace, which took me out of the groove. Also went for a lactate test a couple of weeks ago after my base building phase. Came out at 71 VO2 max, but lactate threshold at 437 per kilometer and lactate 2 at 405. Predicted marathon from that test was 322. I needed more specific tempo runs, and I've upped my intensity for this final block. Garmin is telling me 303. Confidence has taken a beating now in the last couple of weeks, as this has been my hardest week yet. Tell me it gets easier. So he's literally looking out for help. Tell me it gets easier as you hit the taper phase. My previous record with tapers for half marathons and 10Ks is not good. So what I see from that is 4 weeks out, plenty of time for the taper and for a little bit more training. I like to do 9-10 days of taper, freshen up legs, get ready. The longer you're running, marathon or ultra marathon, the shorter the taper needs to be. 4 weeks out, and it's just done a big run, 22 miles, 35K, 10K at easy pace, 15K at just below marathon pace. There's no specifics there, but just below what he's aiming for, and 10K to finish at easy pace, which is a big run. Looking at what the lactate threshold test is telling him, he's looking what the watch is telling him. What I see right now across all social media is a lot of fear and a lot of caution and a lot of regret for not putting the time in, lots of different emotions. Essentially, it's nerves and it's last minute panicking. Have I done the work and am I ready? And then you try to cram, put more work in than is needed, put more training in that's needed, so you overdo it, and then you put yourself in a place where either you're injured or you're ill, ready for race day. It's so important to be in control of your mind as much as you can. And I know that's easier said than done, but here are a few ways that you can do it. Right now, you've got to realize that you're probably as fatigued as you possibly could be when it comes to marathon build-up. And when you get into the taper, the legs are going to freshen up. So what you don't want to do now is be lacking in confidence and then overdo the training and trying to pinch or steal some extra fitness in the next 1, 2, 3 weeks and then overdo it so that you're either injured or ill or fatigued, ready for marathon. A lot can happen in 4 weeks and a lot can happen in the taper, and you're not going to steal so much time in the taper, but you can definitely do it wrong. So I think you're in a great place. If you can do 35K in 22 miles and 15K of that at marathon pace or just a little bit less, you're in a wonderful place right now. Now is the time to put the finishing touches on. So remember that this is you as fatigued as possible, and the doubts will start to creep in. What about those 3 weeks ago when I was sick and I wasn't able to do a training week? What about that interval session where I just couldn't hit the splits? If you look at the training program, and I'll always talk about 13 weeks because I think get fit, start a dedicated 13 weeks, and then that looks for me like 9-10 days taper, that's a week and a half, plus 11 and a half weeks of dedicated training, which means 11 long runs in 11 interval sessions. As simple as that. Don't overcomplicate it. Look at it now that you're in a great place. You're 4 weeks out and you're fit, you're healthy. Yes, you might be a bit fatigued, but that takes a couple of days good rest, a couple of recovery runs, and then you're good to go. And there's no need to pound right now into that interval session and feel like you want to make up ground, you want to steal that fitness. 3 sessions that I know that I'm sort of in marathon pace, there or thereabouts, and I'm usually training in hotter conditions to get ready for the marathon, but 3 great sessions, a 30K progression. So if I'm aiming for the sub-3 marathon, 4:15 per kilometer, that will usually be something like first 10 kilometers at 5 minutes or 4:45 per kilometer. The second 10 kilometers about 4:30 to 4:45 per kilometer. And then that final 10K at marathon pace or a little bit less, 4:20 or 4:15 per kilometer. I know if I box that off and I feel great afterwards, in the days after that, I know that I'm ready, thereabouts, because that extra race day adrenaline, that adds a little bit, it gets you excited, it puts you in race mode. All of a sudden you haven't got that accumulated fatigue and you're able to latch onto groups and you're trying to run sub-3. There's gonna be lots of people, whether it's Berlin Marathon or one of the other big fall or autumn marathons, where you've got huge groups running sub-3. It's just about controlling the race there, which I'll come on to in a second. Another big session I do, which is not actually a big session, is 5 times 10 minutes. I know that if I can hit 5 times 10 minutes at 5% quicker than marathon pace, so my marathon pace was 3:20 per kilometer. If I can hit that in 3:10 per kilometer, 5 times 10 minutes, I know I'm in a great place. Another great session I love to do is just 25K, so good warm up, cool down. Warm up's 15 minutes, cool down is 10 minutes. That's an extra 25 minutes on the day. And it's 25K with 5K at 4 minutes per kilometer. That middle 15K at your marathon pace, so for me 3:20 per kilometer, and then the final 5K at 4 minutes per kilometer. So that first and last 5 kilometers, 20% slower than marathon pace. So you can do the maths for that on a 4:15 marathon, 4:15 per kilometer marathon, but that middle chunk of 15K is your marathon pace. I know that if I can box off 2 or 3 of those sessions, I know I'm in the right place to run, and it seems like a lot because it's 27K more than the 15K. But look at it like you're also having that on fatigued legs. Your legs are tired, you've gone through the training, you've got all this accumulated fatigue, and now you're asking them to do special things towards your target pace for the duration, and you're thinking of yourself like you've got fresh legs at the end of the taper. Taper can do wonders for you, but part of the taper for me is putting yourself in a good headspace that you can be completely free and go for it. And part of that is your relationship to fear. If you have so much fear of failing, you need to sort of investigate what's all that about. Why am I so scared? If that's a case of because I know I've got to go into the office on Monday and everybody's going to say, "Did you do it?" and I'll have to say no, and that's maybe embarrassing for you or whatever. Forget about it. They're just happy that you've shown up, you've had your hat in the ring, and you've gone for it. It's way more than actually sort of nailing it. I promise you, just showing up, having your hat in the ring, and doing your best. And no matter what the watch is saying or what the lat test is saying, you're not going to be able to get there on race day. If you're in a good headspace, you're not going to be able to get there and not give your best. Because everything about you as a distance runner, as a marathon runner, is going to give their absolute best when they get an opportunity, especially if you've had that in the diary for 3 to 6 months and you've been gradually working towards. And a lot of that is on your own, out there doing easy runs, recovery runs, long runs where you're pacing together and linking together bottles, etc. The logistics involved. One thing I like to do at this stage in the training, when it might not have gone perfectly and the data might not suggest that it's going to be an optimal result in 4 weeks' time, take a step back and think, why are you actually doing this? You're doing it for the fun. You're doing it for the fitness, the physical benefits, the physiological benefits, but also the mental benefits. And for me, distance running, or marathon running especially, is about problem solving on the go. And that's about showing up and giving your absolute best when you're not feeling great, when you're not on full fitness and ready to do that sort of 255, 256. It's not impressive for me when I know somebody's capable of way faster and they just dip under 3 hours and do 259. That's not impressive. What's impressive is somebody who all the data suggests they should be running 305 or 306, but they go for it on race day and they do the 33K and then the wheels fell off, but they were on target for a sub 3 because they had their hat in the ring. It's way more impressive. You can win and hit that sub 3 or the target that you're going for, or learn. There's no failure in this sport. You just regroup and go again, and you know what to add more of. And if this is making you nervous or overly cautious, then you know what you need to add more of. And it's a great lesson. You know what you need to add more of, you know what you need to do less of. Maybe it's easier in recovery runs and easy runs so that you can really push on interval day and push on long run and accumulate more time at the marathon pace you're aiming for or faster. Maybe that's the secret that you need to do for next time. But it's too late to think about that now, so don't worry about that. Worry about the legs being fresh, the mind being ready to go for it. Know the splits that you're going for. There's no kind of maths on the go during the race. Know what the course looks like, so you're visualizing. If it's Berlin, there's long straights where you're not really seeing anybody. Then there's windy bits. The weather might be super cold, it might be raining, or it might be hot. It's unpredictable at Berlin, and it might be unpredictable, especially if it's September or October. Think about those types of things. But think mainly that you're lucky to be able to do it. And I'm not going to give you the whole spiel here, but as I'm driving here today, I'm looking at the Indian and the Pakistani gardeners who are working in 45, 46 degree heat most of the summer, watering plants. And you're able to not only do a full-time job, but also train for a marathon at the same time. Book the tickets, the flights, the hotel, etc. to go over to Berlin. And you may fail. You're in a privileged position where the worst thing that can happen to you that day is that you fail to hit your goal that you thought of months ago. That's the worst thing that can happen. And so to be in that position is a position of privilege. And as I said, I'm not going to give you the total spiel, but if you think, I'm grateful for the position that I'm in. You're not injured, you're not ill, you just might not be in the perfect physical condition, but it's very difficult to feel gratitude and at the same time feel anxious. So I love to put myself in that headspace. And then on the start line, what I'll say to myself is, okay, we're having this today. How much do you want it? And if you can say that to yourself and really put yourself in the space that I've done all the hard work, it's out of my control now, I'm on the start line, how much do you want it? Are you prepared to be in control of that first half? Dig in for that third quarter. So that 20K to 30K, dig in, because that's when it kind of goes off track. Then when you get to 30, 33K, are you ready to really dig in? And remember all the training that you've done in order to put yourself in this position. That's what really counts. And if you can make that happen, and it might be a 258 or a 303, but you made it happen, even though the stars weren't aligned, that is such a strong platform to go for your next race, whatever that might be. And you'll be able to go back to the drawing board and chalk up what worked, what didn't, and what the improvement points are. And that's distance running.